Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Brad?
Yes, Lionel.
Brad?
Lionel.
Brad, are you out there? Brad, I can't hear you.
Did somebody hear something?
Brad? Brad, I can't. Brad. I think
your lips are moving, but I don't hear anything.
I think we set a world record for the 20 seconds of most worthless airtime.
There's probably others out there we've done before that rival it. So.
I was going to say that's quite an accomplishment if we did.
This particular podcast, is this the first, Brad?
Yes, Lionel.
Brad?
Yes, Lionel.
Is this the first podcast since the last podcast?
Let me pull up my spreadsheet. That's at Bruce or somebody's suggestion. I do have a laptop sitting beside me tonight. So, according to the magic spreadsheet, yes, this is the first podcast since the last podcast.
Oh, I got a couple of interesting points to discuss with you. One that our buddy Queso Cowboy is going to hear, and he's going to be going, oh, and Queso worries too much. Queso is too concerned. Queso, we love you. We have fun with you. You're doing a great job. Just be Queso. And the other is, no, I can't remember what the other one was.
Nobody suspects Spanish Inquisition?
No, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, I remember what the other one was, which I think is more important. So we'll go with first one is, so I'm glad that we talked to Queso about the Iron City N scale setup at Tomstock.
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point it was going to be set it up on Saturday night and take it down on Saturday night. And that didn't seem like that seemed like a recipe for disaster. B a recipe for you and Kevin Squires to get into Slugs Fest.
Well, that's going to have that would happen anyway. So regardless of that happens at every show.
But I love how because you're so short, you just start pounding on his knees.
Yeah, he can't. His arms can't reach low enough to get to my jaw. So
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So anyways, I'm glad we talked about that because it makes more sense for you guys to be setting up on Friday night after the big Jerry Britton cheese ball run.
Yeah, I think too that'll be. I mean, we could have pulled it off, but it wouldn't have left a whole lot of time for the layout to be displayed. And I didn't,
Yeah, and it would have been too rushed for you guys. It would have made no sense. It would have been put it up, take it down in 5 hours. It's like it's to be more like a practice in NASCAR pit stops than it would be anything else.
That would be kind of fun too.
Yeah, you guys pull in. Okay, go. You guys pull in and you set it. How long does it usually take you guys to set up that layout? And I understand. There's various time lengths because there's various numbers of modules that go into it. I get all that.
Right.
I'm not an idiot. I'm not an idiot, Brad. I got all that before I asked the question.
Okay. I was just going to give you a time is all I was going to do.
As noted in the pre-show notes, there's a little bit of a, you know what, Brad? I've had a difficult day and I'm not.
I know.
I'm not interested in your crap tonight.
Okay. Could I ask a question?
Sure.
What night are you willing to take that risk?
I'm willing. Yeah. Was there ever a night when you were willing to take my crap? Because I must have missed it.
Wow.
That's another Lincoln Homer.
And that's the last we heard of Brad.
Yeah, so long, everybody.
As he walked off to the train station, looking for the Hershey Bears, or the next train to Hershey, and then he got to Hershey, and they said, "Oh no, you're at the ECHL club."
If you've ever seen the show Yellowstone, I think that's the train station you probably want to take me to.
Yeah, and the guy's saying, you know that $200,000 you were making for playing for us? You're not doing that anymore.
You'll get a used pair of skates and
You know, in the AHL, they still make a fair whack of dough, those guys, right? Like if you're in the if you're in the ECHL, you're trying to get to the AHL mostly to actually make more than $3 a day.
Yes, there are some guys that are pretty well paid in the AHL.
Absolutely.
Especially the guys that are like on, that are contracted to NHL teams.
One-way tickets.
Yeah. Well, they call it a two-way contract. They make less in the AHL than they do in the NHL, but a lot of times it's still a pretty good amount of money they get.
Well, yeah, and there's a few guys that have one-way tickets.
Yeah. Yep, there are.
Don't contradict me right off the bat. You're like, is it? There are a few.
Really well.
Yeah.
To answer your question, no, we can usually set up like when we have a big amount of modules, like 60 or 70, we can usually get that done in about 2 hours.
That's pretty cool. It'd be fun to watch. You should do a time lapse. You should have set up a camera or something and do a time lapse.
That is a good idea. Yeah, I'll have to do that next time we're at a big show. I don't think we're going to have that many for this one though. Okay. We'll have a decent size layout, depending on how many other people, because we did open it up to people who aren't even in Iron City if they have modules, and I'm pretty sure Tracy Boyd said she was bringing one. So
good. So that's a great idea. Yeah, anybody that's got a module, an N-scale module, bring it down. And Brad, I'm a member of the Iron City N-scalers.
Yes, you are.
And that was just a great idea I had, doing the time lapse photography.
It was, yes.
And I've had a couple of other decent ideas.
Yeah.
So would you say I'm at least a semi-valued member of the Iron City N-scale?
I would go as far as to say a highly valued member.
Okay. Did I get a personal welcome? No.
I think you did.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. Okay. You did. Yeah, you were member 310.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, when we did the podcast, it was a while ago now. When I was first on, you asked how many members we had, and I said when I checked that morning, it was 309. And Bruce, I think, was on the site and said, "No, you got 310." And I said, "Well, somebody must have just joined today." And you're like, "Yeah, that must have been me." So,
hey Kelly, do you remember what else I said to Brad when he first was on the podcast?
Oh no, you said a lot of things about Brad.
Yeah. I said, "Who are you?" I said, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?"
How did you get in here? Yeah.
All right, and now I have another idea that I think this idea. You know how some ideas thunder down the runway and take off like an F-16 jet fighter,
mm-hmm.
and other ideas kind of trundle down the runway and they get to the end of the runway on the aircraft carrier and just fall into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
This idea is a no-brainer. It's a rocket. It's a great idea. It will take off like an F-16.
Okay.
So do you have written tests with your class, your physics class, your high school physics class?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can we at least make one of them multiple choice?
I could do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I'll coach a couple of your guys and see which one can pick up the rhythm.
Okay.
All
right.
Or I'll take the test. Or I'll take the test and see if I can pick up the rhythm.
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah. Okay. I'll make that up and email it to you tomorrow. How's that?
Yeah. Well, how many questions? It's got to be 20 questions. You got to have a minimum of 20 to pick up a rhythm.
Okay. All right.
All right, that's it. I think we're done. That's another great show.
Nice talking to the guest. Oh, he's not even in here yet.
Yeah, he left 5 minutes ago.
I spent a lot of time this afternoon looking at his YouTube channel. Boy, he's got a beautiful layout.
Yeah,
he does have a beautiful layout. Did you get some great questions to ask him?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Okay, you guys remember probably a couple months ago now, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, I noticed I didn't probably give you enough warning when it was going to be broadcast, and I should have, but I didn't. But his name is Cam Nealy, and he's a wonderful young fellow that is a water dispersion modeler, which has got nothing to do with model railroading, but he's still a modeler as it goes. But anyways, do you guys remember we had Cam Nealy on?
Yep.
I do remember. I wasn't on that, but I remember listening to it. Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you manage to remember the ones you aren't on? Wow.
Sometimes I do.
Well,
yeah.
There's a crack. There's a crack in the armor, boys. There's a crack in the. Well, that's when I wasn't on.
No,
Well,
I just didn't want you to think I was saying I remember talking to him, because I've never spoken to Cam before. I'm looking forward to meeting him on here.
Oh, all right. Have you been talking?
You're just looking to get into a fight tonight, aren't you?
No, not really. I just
Okay.
I'm perturbed. I had a situation today that perturbed me.
I get it.
So anyways, we had this guy, young fella, Cam Nealy, who'd been on years ago with his buddy John Caffarelli. And he has this really cool YouTube channel now called the how do you say it?
Mariah's Pass.
Mariah's Pass. This one's going to take a long time to sink in. And when I stumbled across his YouTube channel, I went, holy moly, look at this. We got to get him back on here again. So we had him on, and really all we talked about was his moving to Missoula, Missouri with his girlfriend to model water dispersion. And we didn't really get into the nitty gritty of this layout. And there's tons and tons to talk about. So I thought we would get him back on and pick up where we left off. Thoughts?
I think that was another great idea.
What do you think, Kelly?
I think it's fantastic.
Attaboy.
That's the only acceptable answer tonight, right?
Well, no, he says enthusiastically. I love that when I'm playing golf with guys and a guy walks up to the tee and he'll mutter to himself, "Well, I wonder where this is going." And I always he said enthusiastically as he approached the tee. The guys that I play golf with haven't quite got me yet. A lot of them are executive pinheads, and they're retired executive pinheads, so they're struggling with, should we like this guy or not?
They haven't cracked the Lionel code yet. Right?
No, exactly. All right. So somebody get Cam Nealy out of the green room, Kelly.
Hey, Cam, come on down.
Hey, Cam, come on into the studio.
Oh, me? Oh, hey guys.
Hey guys.
Hey, Cam.
Hey, Cam. Did you listen to your last podcast?
About half of it. I'll finish up the other half after this one, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't ran out of time. I was making dinner and doing everything last minute, so I liked it though. I liked the first half.
All right. It was on like about a week ago or something, wasn't it? Or weren't you?
Yeah.
You were the guy complaining to me that I didn't give you an alert when it was coming.
Yeah.
on.
How would I know? I actually found out because people started messaging me. So I guess the podcast does have some reach, which is good to know.
It was on like 2 weeks ago, and
well, all right.
Well,
so after the last podcast, I repeatedly checked the Modeler's Life webpage because you do a great job of previewing upcoming episodes. And I was like, surely, soon, we'll see a picture and a little blurb about the podcast that I just did. But I gave up after a few weeks because I wasn't sure if that would ever happen. So, anyway.
All right.
But I found it.
Did you notice that for the cover shot, it's locomotive 6625, and it's an actual prototype photo, but I took the number. Hey. I saw the number on one of your models, your BNSF locomotive models. What kind of locomotive is that?
That'd be a ES44C4.
Oh, it's the C4. I thought it was the C3. Yeah. And I put that on the cover shot.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, but I'm seeing it now. So great attention to detail. I appreciate that.
There you go. All right. So did we determine that there was some place to see your layout? What do you call it? A track plan of your layout?
Yeah, I forget what directions I provided last time, but if you go to my Facebook page, you can either look up BNSF Mariah's Pass HO scale layout or look up Railfan 220. No spaces, all lowercase. That's sort of my screen name, if you will. That should point you in the direction of my Facebook page. And at the top of my Facebook page, there is a pinned post with.
Yeah, look at that. It's pinned. I like that. That's a slick idea.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start flogging people with that idea, boys, that they do a track plan and they pin that post to the top of the page. That's
or they can go on the YouTube and check out his latest video, and it's in the information below the video. Right to it.
All right, let me go check out his latest.
Good for you. You know my videos better than I do. I had forgotten I did that. But yeah, I've got an operations series that I posted. I won't say recently, but in the past few months, and I link the track plan there as well. So
it's a great shot of the train coming up a hill. It's not flat. It's actually it's got a little rise to it, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty big breath you took in there, Kelly. You going under for a while?
No. Trying to figure out what I'm doing here. I got too many windows open.
Well, you don't have to breathe out or breathe loudly when you're thinking.
Well, I found out why my microphone is going down. It only does it when I'm on Google Chrome.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Okay, so there may be the preferences in Google Chrome.
Maybe I'll have to try that with my computer setup too, because I've been using Chrome when I was having all that problem with auto adjusting.
So Cam, where do you feel like we should start out let's start out in the construction phase. Let's give somebody, because the problem with your YouTube channel, and this is don't take this as a serious complaint, but it's definitely a complaint. The problem with your YouTube channel is it's way too good. It's like really, really good. And there's like way too much to look at and hard to concentrate on where do I go next. It's one of the few that if I sit down while I'm having dinner and I'm looking for something to watch, I will turn on one of your videos since I rediscovered it. It's like Distant Signal, which is Danny Harmon. It's like Distant Signal. It's like a couple others that I will turn on and I will watch because they're done so well.
I appreciate that. Glad to know someone's doing it because I've got those channels out there too.
Yeah, and it's how long does it take you to make a video? Like, first off, why did you start making YouTube videos?
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
Well, hang on now. We've only just started, but were some of the questions from the last podcast not that great?
I'd have to recall, but I would put money on, there were probably some bad questions in there. I don't remember them.
Wow.
Probably a few. No, I'm joking. But
with that, this was Brad Williamson's last podcast.
So are we ready to give out the email address now?
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been fun. See you guys.
So, okay. So why did you initially start the YouTube channel? And what age were you when you started it?
Dang, that's a good question. I think it was 2012, late 2012 when I started it. So I would have been like 14 at that point. And I had been watching model train YouTube videos for a number of years up to that point. And there were a couple of channels that I just thought were super cool. One of them is a guy by the name of Josh Clark. He has a YouTube channel, NS Modeler 24.
Yeah, we got to interview him again too.
Oh, awesome. He's been on. I didn't realize that. He does incredible work and was kind of, in my view, one of the like model railroad YouTube pioneers, where he was posting videos really early on that some of them didn't even have like too much structure. It was just cool shots of like the DCC and sound locomotives that he had, which at the time to me, back in 2008, 9, 10, something like that was just kind of mind blowing. And so that kind of got the wheels turning. And I thought, I already had a smaller layout in the works, and I guess I just kind of wanted to emulate what he was doing. And I thought having a YouTube channel would sort of be a good way to add a bit more intrigue to the hobby.
Right. And just it increases, because I'm convinced, there's no way that we can prove it. There's no way we can verify it, but I'm convinced there is a bunch of guys like you and John Caffarelli and Josh Clark. There's a bunch of guys out there in your age group that are out there just soaking up this hobby as much as they can, making YouTube videos, and just are truly involved in the hobby. And I think that's a huge thought going forward.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there was kind of a golden era. Maybe it's still going. I think it is to a degree, but I just think there was a sweet spot there, kind of like mid 2000s, late 2000s, where there's a lot of people who are flocking to YouTube as a social media platform, but also a lot of young train nerds out there, and just the blending, or the merger of those two things, I think sort of elevated the passion for the hobby, because you were able to see so much more, I think. That's not to say that it's better in any way than, like traditional outlets being things like magazines, because that's also how I think a lot of my interest started, was going through Model Railroaders and all sorts of other magazines. But to also have that, I wouldn't say, for me, it's not really a social outlet, but just another media platform to share content, was pretty exciting, because, looking at pictures and reading stories is one thing, but actually watching someone's layout operate without being there is a whole other level of connection. It's
right.
Very accessible now.
And do you feel you had an understanding of quality was important? Because I feel like I personally, it's my kind of my little quest. There's a lot of people out there that have YouTube channels where they don't seem to understand that quality is a huge part of making a YouTube channel watchable.
Yeah, I think I've had that in the back of my head. I've always strived for some degree of quality, whether it's the layout itself or videos. But again, that's part of that's just a reflection of the videos that I'm watching that strike me the most, or that are the most inspirational. So in a way, it's just sort of emulation of what I enjoy. And definitely, I'm lazy sometimes. Like, I'll admit, I'm looking through my YouTube page right now. The 5th most recent video I posted is nearly an hour, and it's just a compilation of random clips I took over the span of like 3 or 4 months running trains. I put almost no effort into making that. It's just clip after clip, with like transitions in there, which is basically the click of 2 keys.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a bit of a cash grab video, I'll admit. But people enjoy it. You get to see the layout operating for nearly an hour.
Well, and that's kind of like some interviews are really easy, and it's people I've interviewed before. And if it's kind of like I'm not in the mood to, put more effort into be somebody I've interviewed before, that's kind of like feels like a cash grabber, as I call it, a night off, because it's just a discussion. However, I already feel like you kind of you're one of those people that's like, it's really easy to interview you. You're very talented. You understand quality. And when you have those elements already instilled in your guest, it just is a very easy thing to do. So now I got a question. I'm looking at your Facebook page, and it's a post from January the 20th, Essex Helpers, Part 5.
Ooh, yeah.
Back at Essex, Montana, Helper 1 starts shoving an intermodal train whose second unit went offline. So now I'm looking at probably the second picture, and it's the locomotive is just heading into a curve. And I'm fascinated by, like, the front of the layout. You've got a beautiful fascia. It's very flowing. It's all curved. There's no 90-degree corners or angles. I'm very much about curved fascia. Curved fascia makes it, but it's very flowing. And I'm interested, like, who do you feel like was your biggest influence in layout design?
Oh man, that's a really good question.
Another really good question. That's like 2 in a row.
Wow. Yeah,
you're just smacking them right up.
I am. I'm going to get the home run derby. Just keep.
Yeah, you are in the zone.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. I don't know really where to start. I'm trying to think, like, from a actual layout sort of not construction, like not the process of putting it together, but the actual sort of physical track plan and sort of aesthetic choices. I don't know if I can point to a single layout. But, I mentioned it on the last podcast, John Parker's BNSF Fall River division was a huge influence. I like the way that with his layout, it's HO scale. And obviously it's huge. I don't remember how many square feet his floor or his track plan is. But many, many times larger than my layout. But even so, with all that space, I don't think he ever puts too much into the scene, right? Oftentimes you have these linear stretches that are only about probably like a foot deep on his layout, even though he could do more if he wanted to. And I really liked sort of the shadow box effect he gets in a few areas where the fascia, or I guess the lighting valence above the fascia comes pretty close to the track. But that's because the tracks are almost at like an eye level viewing perspective. So you get this really cool effect where I think the scenes seem larger than they really are. So that was certainly a big influence. Now saying that, I didn't incorporate that element that I just talked about too well into the layout. Like there's actually a lot of space vertically between sort of the view block or the lighting valence and the actual scene itself. But I did like some of the long viewing angles and flowing perspectives that he gets on his layout. So that was certainly, I would say, probably the primary influence when I was thinking about designing this layout.
Right. And had you been to any, like John Park? What's John Parker's? What's it actually called, that layout? It's the
Fall River Division.
That's right. And he has a beautiful website that I highly recommend that everybody goes and sees, because we got to get him on the. Hey, you know what we got to do, guys?
What's that?
We got to get him on the podcast.
Mm.
Put him on the
list.
Yeah, like everybody else on the planet. What a bad idea this was. Okay, but did you?
Podcast?
Yeah, the podcast. It was a really bad idea. The whole thing is like we're 10 years later.
I like how you frame the question, what's a good idea, as if you're just figuring out how to do a podcast.
Well,
we should get a guest on here.
Yeah, we literally, Cam, since the last time.
Really, a podcast should have guests?
Yes.
Yeah. Who knew?
Honestly, because you're young, I don't want to burst your bubble. But after 10 years, we basically have no idea what we're doing.
That makes it better, I think.
So, but did you have any like physical layouts that you went and saw that would compare? I mean, your layout is a high-end layout, so I'm interested in, at the age of 22, how did you manage to understand? Because I'm very much, this is going to be a really long-winded statement and question, and I apologize in advance. But I'm very much, everybody has, this fits right in with discussions I've had with Brad, although it's hard to believe you can have any kind of a lengthy discussion with Brad that makes sense. That was a good one.
That was a good one, yeah.
That was a good one, yeah.
Yep. Touche.
You got the personality of a flickering taillight on a 65 Chevy Bel Air.
Oh, jeez.
And I trust you about as much as a head gasket on a 76 Vega.
Oh, wow.
The elbows are out tonight.
That's
boy.
right, buddy. So I'm really interested in. I feel like everybody fits into the hobby. Like Brad's has a modular group, the Iron City End Scalers, and we've talked about how they really have no rules about what the quality of the. It's not that they don't care about the quality of the module. They care about the quality of the track work. They care about how the module is built. But the
wiring is important too.
The wiring is important and things like that. But you don't really have a standard into how good the scenery is or how good the structures are. So long as it runs well, it's wired properly and built properly. You guys just want the person to bring out. You want the module brought out and displayed to encourage the person to continue on with the hobby.
Absolutely true. Yes, and then as time goes on, they if they decide they want our help trying to, improve their scenery, we're more than happy to help. But the last thing we want to do is have somebody criticizing modules of like a new person and discouraging them from ever coming back. So yeah, you're absolutely correct.
So you guys are in model railroading 100%. Now you go to the other end of the scale and you've got guys like Cam here, who has built an absolutely magnificent layout that really probably would have no interest in being in that kind of a modular group, but doesn't say that these guys aren't model railroaders. But his layout is built really well. The scenery is very realistic. He's taken a lot of time in making the overall appearance to be. I mean, it's a top flight, first line layout. It's a great layout. So the question I'm trying to come to, Cam, and I think it's really, really important, or it's a good question to ask a 22-year-old. Like, I'm trying to understand. Did you understand where it was you were trying to go, or did this just kind of come naturally to you?
That is a good question. And first, I just want to say that I think a modular group like what you're describing sounds super fun, and especially now that I'm away from the layout, that I think that I'm entertaining that idea more. And also, model railroading is a hobby; it's not a job. So you are not required to adhere to any sort of standard, right? Like quality is all in the eyes of the beholder; it's all subjective. So if people are discouraging others, because they're criticizing their work, that's pretty lame. So I just want to put that out there. If there's anyone listening who would be like, oh man, you're right, I guess I'll stop doing that. Doubt that that's the case, but nonetheless,
I agree. It is lame, and unfortunately it does happen, but yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, that just makes no sense to me.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It happens. It just does.
Yep.
I don't know, why that needs to be a conversation that is had, especially if you're like going out to join a group. Like there's a social element to it. You are interacting with others. You're doing something collective. If that's something you're seeking out, that just comes with the territory, right? That it's not your private layout. So
exactly.
If you want to be bothered by things like that, then you can go sit in your living room or whatever and send Facebook comments into the void or whatever. But anyway.
Well, that's a great point, because I'm currently building a home layout. It's in the fairly early stages, I guess you could say, but eventually I haven't super detailed any of the scenes yet, because I'm just trying to rough the scenery in as I go. But that's my home layout. I will put extremely high standards of scenery on my home layout, like you've obviously done. But yeah, like you're saying, for new people, if you want to get new people into the hobby, you have to encourage, not discourage. So
absolutely.
Well, and the reason you haven't started highly detailed on your scenery yet, Brad, is because Scott hasn't finished all the models.
Yeah, we got to get him going.
Oh man.
Because apparently he's the only person on the planet that's busy.
Yeah.
That's relatable.
Scott is one of our regular contributors to the podcast, and he's probably one of the best. Well, he's the best model structure builder. Well, any kind of thing. He's built Me Too RS1s in S scale from kits. I mean, this guy, he's probably one of the best builders of kits, locomotives, anything in model railroading that you could imagine. But he has this whole South Carolina, golly gee, it's not that good. But, any contest, he's been to the national contest and won all the contests there. And, he's just a magnificent modeler. And he's on our podcast a lot, and he's volunteered to build some structures for people. But lately he's fallen behind as an excuse he's busy, when apparently the rest of us are just sitting around doing nothing. So we know that Scott is listening to this podcast. And right now, Scott, your cover has been blown. We all know.
but we still love you, Scott.
Well, absolutely. We love Scott. We absolutely love Scott. Scott is he's an awesome guy. So let's get into this. So I'm really interested in, I think it's fascinating to find out if you are just a natural artist, because a lot of this takes some sort of artistic talent. I'm interested in, are you just a natural artist? Did you sit down? Like, how did you, I don't know, maybe the best way to describe, help with this question is, I can remember when I was trying to decide on the paint scheme for my freelance Allegheny and Lackawanna Southern, I didn't pick red and yellow because the Allegheny Midland was already like that. And I didn't pick blue and white because Virginia and Ohio was all like that. And me, in my incredibly, what's that word? Incredibly conceited, self-centered way, thinking, well, if I'm ever on the cover of Model Railroader, I don't want my paint scheme to look like one of those two paint schemes. Which is, when I look back on it, I think to myself, man, oh man, talk about self-centered, conceited. Pick an adjective. So I'm very, very I'm interested in the quest that people have, and you're so young. It's kind of like you won the Stanley Cup in your rookie season.
Can I just ask a quick question that kind of goes with that?
No, I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Okay. Is your layout that's on your YouTube? Is that the first layout you've built for yourself, or?
It's the second one. There was another tabletop layout in that same space.
Yeah. I was going to say, if that's your first effort, even second effort, that's pretty incredible. You absolutely nailed it.
But your first effort, you started when you were what, 10 or 12 years old?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Something like that.
So really, his first effort was the same as anybody's. Brad, he was a 10 or 12-year-old just, experimenting with. So, this is his first real layout, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But it's kind of tough to draw the line, right? I say this is my second layout. Physically it is, right? The bench work and all that. But as we talked about in the last episode, this is kind of a second go around on this layout, right? Like I ripped out all the scenery that was previously installed. And so it's an iterative process. So you could say like, oh, this is just his second try. But in reality, this layout has been going on now for 10 years. So it's like trying something, not liking how it looks, ripping it out, trying again. And I think where I've landed these days is trying to do that as little as possible, but not being so hasty in my methods and approach that later on I know that I'm going to be dissatisfied. So I don't know how you strike that balance as an individual, but I think I found a place in terms of like how I'm constructing the layout and the methods I'm using that are satisfying enough to me, even though I know I could be even crazier in this pursuit of perfection or trying to emulate what I think is the absolute best modeling that I've ever seen and try to do that for every square inch of the layout. That's certainly something I could attempt to pursue, but I don't think it's realistic and I don't think it'll bring me personal satisfaction. So at the end of the day, it's just a reevaluation of what is satisfying in the hobby to me. And I've finally narrowed it down and I'm very happy with where things currently sit on the layout.
Yeah. You could try to model everything to the absolute contest quality, but you found a level where you realize it's a good looking layout without you having to build every square inch to contest quality.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also, thinking about how I'm going to go about the scenery or backdrop or whatever, and almost putting a little bit of effort into, I guess, the sequence and the scale of my approach. In other words, like I've considered before, why don't I just model a single 12-inch linear section of scenery and just go all out, focus all my energy in that, and then pick somewhere else and do that. And just sort of organically, that's almost happened in a few spots. But I've also used sort of a different broad sweeping paintbrush approach where I'll do an entire, 100-foot section where it's like, okay, I'm going to do a layer of grass today. And there's, I think by mixing it up and almost keeping yourself on your toes, I've found that has kept me engaged and satisfied because every once in a while I want to shake it up. I want to have sort of that sense of drastic, instantaneous visual change. And so most of the backdrop on the layout, I painted in the span of a few hours because I used very simple techniques. And for a few weeks, I was like, wow, it's a different layout,
that's all right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let's not skip over that point. That's a great point where sometimes you'll do a larger section with an perhaps easier technique, and that gives you a drastic change in the layout appearance. I did that a few times on my own layout. Like I found out a really easy way to cover the hillsides with trees. And I could do, I might come in one day. I remember one weekend, like you say, for some reason or other, I had it in my brain that I wanted to do like a 20-foot section of trees, and I just kept going at it. And then, after a weekend, I had like it seemed like an entirely different, well-scenic layout.
Yeah. It's self-inspiration in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like you say, sometimes that's part of the beauty of this hobby is we say day in and day out is the variation. If you want today, if for a couple of weeks, all of a sudden you decide you want to build a craftsman structure, you can sit down and do that and have fun doing that. Or if you want to work on your locomotives, but we still have to search out this question about how did you maintain or obtain such a high-end quality on a layout at such a young age. Like, I'm fascinated by that because
Yeah.
let me add something to that. Let me rudely interrupt you once again and add something to that is because I'm hopefully we'll be talking to you several times over the years, and this will be an ongoing, because I can't wait to see what you build next, and there'll be an ongoing discussion of, okay, what's happening here, what's the difference here, which direction are you going? I think we're laying the groundwork for some great discussions in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, let me think about where to start that. Well, first, I'm flattered that we're spending time in pursuit of the answer to this question. I mean, there's certainly people who have higher standards and execute at a higher level than I do, many people. But again, it circles back to what brings you personal satisfaction. I'm happy with the approach and the results that I'm getting. But when it comes to like defining that standard and how I sort of measure myself against others, I guess, that I think that started at a pretty young age, flipping through magazine articles. I'm thinking specifically of the Danish modeler Pelle Soborg.
Right, exactly.
I'm saying his name right, but
yep.
he definitely set a bar that I think in a vacuum, like in other words, without comparison to other modelers or any other examples out there, just looking at the photos of what he did, I was able to, even at a young age, compare sort of the sense of realism, again, subjective, but still the sense of subjective realism that I see in his photos to sort of the level of detail that I perceive in prototype examples. Those two overlapped a lot to me. And so I think that was pretty formative, where I went, okay, the materials he's using, whatever it is, dirt coloration, there's some technique, some sort of magical blend he struck. And I went on a path of trying to approach that. But it also, let me say that I think I had those standards in mind even when I was doing the first layout. But I wasn't achieving those, let's say, to the degree that I am now. And I can see that in retrospection, but still it's more about like, what have you as a model railroader done to a point, right? And so that first layout, I was actually very satisfied with things, but after a while you start to realize, you know what, I think I can do this a little bit better. So you start the next scene and you just tweak a few things. And so it's an iterative process where I'm always reevaluating how well I think I'm executing these sort of unspoken standards that I hold for myself.
So you said something interesting there that I think could be pursued a little bit, is when you first discovered Pelle Solberg, Pelle to his friends, when you first discovered him, you said you talked about investigating what kind of techniques and materials he was using. And would that be something we should explore as a group, or something that would be maybe a key to what we're saying is, once you see a railroad that you like and fits into the type of, or fits the standard that you want to achieve, maybe part of that process is at first making sure you understand how it was how that end result was obtained. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just sort of the curiosity that I think all model railroaders have to a degree is when you're building a layout, you're kind of just fumbling through how to make something look the way it looks in your head. And so I think a great place to start is have an example, have some inspiration, and then have the resources available to you to actually understand how it was done. And that's where sharing in the hobby is so important, right? Like if I just had the pictures of his layout, I have no idea what to do, but I was reading through magazine articles, at 10, 11, 12, and it was illuminating to see what sort of techniques he used. And I certainly, there's certain elements of techniques that he or others use that I've tried and failed at. But I don't know, I guess it's time investment. And after a while you start to realize like, oh, I can combine these two things, or maybe I was doing this technique wrong, or I don't like it at all, and there's another way to go about it. So it's just trial and error.
So this is a good question, I think, for a young fella. Fellas, back, Kelly, back me up on this one if you think it's good or bad.
Okay.
do you, as a younger guy, do you understand? Do you feel like you understand the advantage of having material available, or not material? Do you have the advantage of understanding that there's so much out there? There are so many people that can show you how to do things, that it's a real advantage, as opposed to the way it was, say, 40 years ago, where the only way you saw it was in a magazine or guys you met in the NMRA. Like, do you get a sense? What I'm trying to say is, do you get a sense of how much information is out there for you?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think there's so much more available that if you want the answers, you can seek it out. And that's been a help to me many times. I mean, there's all sorts of even forums online with posts from like 15 years ago that have been useful to me, even though I'm not actually in those forums commenting on a regular basis. I can just Google search anything and have quasi-relevant, shall we say, answers to the application that I'm seeking. But I'll also add that I think I'm even observing with myself that I've put the blinders on a little bit. In other words, I think there's sort of a formative period of standard building or standard, I don't know what the word is, but essentially I know that I have a sense of what I think is good enough. And I think that'll change somewhat over the years. But I in some ways, I think maybe it's because my brain has stopped developing or whatever it is, but I no longer have that like almost competitive sense in me where I think, oh, I need this to be even better. Like a photo comes up in a Facebook thread and I think, oh my gosh, look at that guy. He's just doing it heads and tails above what I'm doing. Now I need to scrap everything I'm doing. That used to be something that sort of itched inside. And I've got to the point where I have a few examples where I believe, and I'll tell other people that layout or that layout is fantastic. And here's why I like it. And now I am trying to match that standard and be happy with my layout. And now if someone comes along in 10 years and there's new techniques and standards out there and it just looks so much better, I might adopt a few of those. Who's to say, where the future goes? But I also feel like less so than in the past, I'm not constantly seeking sort of a new standard or a new level.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You feel like you understand it. Maybe you understand the hobby generally better than you did before.
Yeah, I think, there's something to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I know one of the questions I had for him, I think, fits here. Is this a good time for it, or?
Let me look on. What are you laughing at, Kelly? Why don't you ask Kelly, see if he thinks it's a good time?
Kelly, do you think it's a good time for me to ask him a question?
You're skating on thin ice. So
okay, well, I'm used to that.
Be careful.
Hey, Brad, at least you're asking a question.
Yeah, well,
thank you,
I have
Bruce.
questions. I'm waiting.
Oh, you have questions, Kelly?
Oh yeah. Does he have any Rapido trains?
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one, because you know what, Bruce? Brad, you do have the opportunity to ask a question, but now we need to tell a little story.
Okay.
All right.
Bruce, I was driving home from whatever it was I was doing today, and I got about halfway home, and I thought, I'm not going to have time for dinner when I get home. I'm going to pull into this McDonald's and have myself a quarter pounder with cheese.
Well, there you go.
And while I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh yeah, tonight's podcast will be on the free channel, so I'll have to make sure to say to Bruce, or I'll remember, because I've just thought of it, I'll remember that it's on the free channel, and we've got to very often say Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
And yet here it is at milepost 51, and we have yet to say it at all. So, are we just useless?
No. No, I think it's an interesting conversation, and we just get so involved in it.
I don't know. Rapido Trains has been a wonderful sponsor for us now for over a year, and been a very excellent folks to work with. It's lots of fun, blah blah blah, and yet here we are. They've constantly sponsored us. They're thrilled to be our sponsor. They enjoy it, blah, 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 blah. And yet here we are. We still can't remember to include them at the very start of the show. I think we're just idiots. I mean,
Brutal.
We're lovable idiots, though.
Okay, yeah, right. You know what we'll do, Bruce?
An intro and outro and plug the mic.
Well, hopefully, I'm thinking from this point forward, we can remember to mention Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
So, and then I'm hoping we can wrap up the show properly, and just then need to do an intro.
All right.
Yeah, let's hope for that. Let's cross our fingers.
That's our goal for the night.
That's our goal for the night. All right, Brad.
Ooh.
Shoot, you had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned about using Pelle Soborg's work kind of as, I don't know if you want to say a gauge to measure your own, but one of the things that I noticed right away when I started watching your videos is your use of what some people call negative space. I just call it space between structures or whatever. But that's an area that's really, really easy to overlook. I struggled with that on a lot of the earlier layouts that I built before this one. But if you want your model railroad to look like it's going from one place to another, you have to have areas like where there's just wilderness, where there's just a bunch of trees, or nothing, no switching, no industry or anything like that. And a lot of times for young modelers, I struggled with this a lot. You have so much that you want to fit in that it basically looks like one big metropolis, your whole layout, because there's no, you don't get that illusion that you're going from one town to another. I was just curious, is that something you consciously did, or did you just arrive at that by emulating what you saw from people like Pelle and other modelers? Did you consciously concentrate on trying to have that space between, more complex scenes? Or
No, that's a really good question. I think no, I can't give myself too much credit. I don't think that was any sort of inspired thought. I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's mainly just like observing other layouts that I find fascinating. And I think what calls to me most in those are those quote unquote negative spaces, or those runs between scenes of operational interest, right? And I think on the prototype too, that's what interests me the most. So when I'm building a layout, for example, the one that we're talking about, I know that to enjoy it, to have fun, that I want to have operational elements in there, right? I want to have yard switching. I want to have some industry. But the focus going in was running long road freights up a mountain grade. And so just kind of naturally, I think it follows that I need to have scenes in there where some of the best photos of those trains in their natural setting are taken. And so, it's a function to some degree of the line I'm modeling. It's some emulation of layouts that have inspired me. And then there's a little bit of thought given to it. For example, I know before I made the full switch to modeling Marias Pass as I am now, I had sprinkled in some elements of that beforehand, like a few years ago on the lower level. And there was a period of time on the lower deck. If you look at the track plan, there's a scene called Belton, and there's kind of a cool couple tunnels and some almost like a canyon vibe with some cool rock cuts. That originally I had envisioned as some like nondescript suburbia, kind of like have the backside of like a Taco Bell or something up against the track. So I think in the end, I made the right decision to put what I did there. So that was a little bit of me realizing that that would be a bad decision in terms of the flow of the layout to put a bunch of random buildings there that don't really serve a purpose, and instead put scenery that to me is visually striking.
Yeah, and that's why that was one of the things that struck me about that's a thing that young modelers struggle with. At least I did. I shouldn't attribute my stupidity to all young modelers, but it's like you said, you want those areas of operational interest for sure. But when you end up with one big spaghetti bowl of track, that doesn't end up being too interesting. So I kind of had to do the same thing you did. I model Pennsylvania. You're out west, I'm back east, but it's the same thing. The area where I live, which is what I model, goes through a lot of wilderness areas, kind of like your layout does. Mm-hmm. And there are two small towns that I used to rail fan in a lot, called Keating and Driftwood, and I had them too close together in the original track plan. So now that I learned by trial and error from mistakes that I've made, which are many, there's like a 16-foot run between those two, and that's N scale.
Oh,
16-foot run in N scale between those two towns, and it's just mountain scenery, wilderness in between the two. And I just think I wanted to convey the notion that you're actually going somewhere, and that's why I think your layout appealed to me so much, because I think you did a fantastic job of having that space in between areas of operation, and that's one of the big things I was curious about. So,
yeah, thank you. No, that's everything you said certainly resonates with me. I think too, like there's a natural sense of scale that you capture, and that's something I really appreciate about N scale as well. Is if you have that 16-foot run, whether it's linear or not, there could be some curves in there. Either way, you can observe an entire train sort of in a tangent section of layout, but it's not a 10-car train, right? You could have a 30-car, 40-car train, and it would look like you might see it out in the real world if you're at some distance or up like on a ridge on the highway and you see a train way out there. I like that sense of scale that's conveyed when you have the negative space that you talk about. And that's something that's hard to do. Like I've crammed a lot into the my layout room, and it's HO scale. So there's certainly things that I've reconsidered where I feel like I wish I could capture that sense of scale even better. But I guess that's for the next layout.
Yeah, one of the things that I tried to do, and it looks like you accomplished, whether you actually thought about it, was to be able to have long trains, but be able to have enough curves or enough mountains or tunnels or whatever, so that you can't see both ends of the train at the same time. Like if you're standing trackside, it's very rare you ever see the locomotives and the last car at the same time. So that's one of the things I tried to do too, is to have long runs, but be able to break it up so that, maybe it goes behind a thick stand of trees or goes through a tunnel or something. And I think your layout does a marvelous job of that too.
Yeah, thank you. That one certainly is an accident. Cause I'm realizing now that it's like, oh man, I should really give that thought when I'm thinking about designing the next, whenever the next layout will be, and it will be some time, but still I've thought about that element more, where it's like, okay, maybe I don't need to have insane train lengths, because even with my current layout, I'm like, man, I want to run like longer trains, but obviously then it gets inordinately more expensive. And so I think with clever layout design, if you're actually putting thought into it, whereas I wasn't, you can kind of work around that.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
That eats a lot of your space up too. If you want to run a 30-car train in HO scale, then you need really long sidings.
Yep.
You need really long yards to park them in. And that's a tough thing in any scale, really. But
so that gets the whole design. Your givens and druthers. Do you want realistic spaces with lots of scenery and minimal track and that type of thing, or do you want to jam a bunch of stuff in? And that's one of the things that Jarn Armstrong used to give you the questionnaire, and Lance Minheim does it. What do you really want to model, so you get a sense? Do you want tons of track or not so much track?
Exactly.
That was a nice tie-in there too, Brad, to a reference to Kelly on that one too. That discussion.
You mean negative space?
No.
Sorry, Kelly.
No. A couple months ago at Springfield, you asked me what's between Kelly's ears, and I said wilderness. I apologize. That was rude, and now right now,
I'll do Scott. That was rude.
You want to do Scott? Promise somebody a model, and then it's like 4 months later before they're even remotely close to getting it. But then you could also join the "Where's My T-shirt" contest. So I'm one to talk.
That's a new contest. Where's my model?
Yeah, where's my model? Hey, dude, where's my model?
Yeah, Queso and I could do that. Hey, dude, where's my station?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and then he promised one to Mr. Jingles, and I mean that's barely even a thought right now. But he's busy. Apparently, nobody else on the planet is busy, but he is. Those are all. Oh, so Kelly, you said you had some questions. Were your questions about Rapido trains?
Well, I started
You're
that.
fast track to model railroading fun.
Jeez.
Well, you asked a question. You said, so were they?
Rapido train. Attention.
You got to pay
I
attention,
know,
buddy.
but if you ask a question, you have to. I expect an answer.
No,
right?
you count 1,001, 1,002, then you give the answer.
Oh, man.
Rapido, there's only one spot on the whole podcast where you got to pause, and it's not like you just got here.
No.
You act like you just got here, but it's not like you just got here.
The wilderness is getting to
Yeah,
me.
exactly. up in the high tundra.
Kelly, I love it when you're here because you take all the heat off me.
You know what?
You're here for other reasons.
You know what? Poor old 22-year-old Cam is thinking right now. You're our 22, right, Cam?
26.
26. I apologize. You were 22 before when we interviewed you.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's been a while.
I'm just thinking right now, if this is what model railroading does to you when you get old, I might want to get out of the hobby now.
No. What 26-year-old Cam is thinking right now is these guys are assholes.
Oh, no.
To each other, yeah.
Yeah. Give it time, buddy. Give it time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you have questions, Kelly, about Rapido trains?
You're fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Or did you not have any questions at all?
Yeah, I've got operational questions. I've watched all his videos, especially the 5-part series on the live video.
Oh,
okay.
Are you planning? Yeah, he's got five parts, at least an hour, half an hour.
The manned helpers part 1, or is that it's different?
No, it's past streams. You have to go way down on the
way down.
It's Operations Live from a year ago, or streamed a year ago. I don't know how long ago
live. Okay, so so did you have a group there and you did some live operations, or?
Yeah, I'm trying to think when that was. I think that was like August of 2022. And if you're on the YouTube page, another thing you can do as well. I guess it probably depends on like the browser or whatever, but there's like when you first go to the channel, there's these tabs that say like home videos,
right?
And if you go 2 tabs to the right, there's a live.
Oh,
tab,
okay. And they're under there. They are Operations Live parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, cool. All right,
so that's kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah. So those videos are kind of interesting to watch only because that's sort of like in the early stages of me revamping the layout. So if you go even further back, there's actually live streams from back when it was titled the Plains Division. Mm-hmm. And I was modeling Nebraska. And so those 5 videos that are the most recent live streams, those are from, probably like 6, 7, 8 months after I really started to make some headway into transforming it into Marias Pass. So most of the layout is just covered in paper and, you got raw pink foam still showing. The backdrop has even changed. So that was a period of time when I wasn't posting any content. I didn't throw any photos or videos up. So that's sort of a stage of the layout that wasn't, it was documented, but many haven't seen because I haven't posted those videos yet.
Okay. And yet, you mean you're going to post those videos?
Yeah, I've got, well, some have already been posted, but there's still a backlog of sort of, I wouldn't say instructional, but sort of just documentary style videos showing the various stages of construction. So I tried to take as much sort of B-roll as possible so that I could later edit them into vaguely coherent, sort of topical videos about like, how do I do the tunnels, or how did I paint the track, backdrop, all that. So some of those are already up, but there's probably about 10 or 12 still in the works.
Can you just give us very briefly, because we heard it before, but why did you change from Nebraska to the Marias Pass?
It was just something I was itching to do for a while. I think I became more enamored with the scenery of Western Montana than Nebraska, but also, looking back on it, I'm really glad that I started with modeling Crawford Hill, and it's still a prototype that I have a lot of interest in. So like, it would not surprise me if some future layout project down the road that I go back to it. But it was just, I don't know. I think I was looking to get reinvigorated in the hobby, and thinking about modeling Montana scenes just got me super excited. So I went that route.
Okay. And would you say, having lived that experience, would you say finally settling on a particular area that you want to model is important to keeping your enthusiasm for the layout up?
Yeah, for me. And I'm not so sure that it's a function of finding the exact right prototype location as much as it is finally landing on a level of focus that is satisfying to me. In other words, the layout beforehand, there was thought put into it, but I just sort of took off running. Once I knew that I was going to model Crawford Hill, I just went for it. But all I knew was that the upper level was Crawford Hill. There was kind of everything else was a little bit wishy-washy. And I think that just eroded my interest over time. And so circling back and really putting a pin on the map of where I wanted to model, the exact scenes, the operations and all that, just, it kept me a bit more focused.
And that's all part of the learning process of being in model railroading. You start off with these great ideas and stuff, and you get working away, then all of a sudden you kind of think, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then you realize you really like something else, and all right, you know, there's more than one person who's built a number of layouts because they didn't like the one they had on the go.
That's like deciding in your early 60s you want to model do English model railroading.
That's true.
And then you continue to buy North American stuff anyways because it's cool. from Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Because it's cool stuff.
It is.
I do have one Rapido car.
You got one Rapido?
Cylindrical hopper. Yeah, I just remembered.
You got
one.
You
know what I need is those new center beams.
There you go.
Put out some pretty fancy new center beam flat cars that I need a bunch of.
So buy a bunch
of those. Looking for endorsements at Rapido.
You're looking for endorsements. Okay.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah. Actually, Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Needs no endorsement. It's just a quality product that you will be happy with.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Kelly, go ahead. Ask some of your questions because this sounds like an interesting, as much as it is hard to believe.
Well, it's some comments, some questions, but it reminds this Operations Live reminds me of stuff that Joe Fugate did with his on his DVDs, showing 2 or 3 of the operations were, following a train and the people that were operating it. And it was kind of neat, but it was, the comment I would make is the next time you do this Operations Live, more cameras, not just the one camera. I think that would be really cool to watch a train going the whole route or on the lower level and everything else with much like Joe did.
Next time you're 22 and you're on a very limited budget, get more cameras, will you?
Yeah. The live videos, those can be a challenge. Part of it is just like the physical logistics in the room. I think that's a great idea. I would love sometime to have an operating session at my layout, but just sort of be that fly on the wall with a camera, following an operator around as they start a job and just like, cover the process from bottom to top, literally, like, because that's generally the run, right? Train starts in the yard, very bottom of the grade, climbs all the way to the top. What happens along that route? What trains do they meet? What are they doing operationally in terms of track warrants or following signals, dispatcher communications, all that. So I think that's something I'd like to document more. I have put some effort into trying to simulate those operations, but they're just sort of, I don't know. It's a one-man job, right? So if you go to watch my videos, I do have some operations videos there, but again, it's all simulated. Like I'm the dispatcher, I'm running the train.
Right.
It's very, I'm pulling the puppet strings, but I think doing that during an op session would be super cool.
Yeah. And the quality is really good. It's just, if it wasn't for like the ones where you do the manned helpers, if it wasn't for the little icons, if the time and all the YouTube information on the front of the picture wasn't there, at first looking at it, looks like it's the real thing.
Yeah.
Especially that part 2 of the manned helpers coming up the hill.
Oh yeah, that is a cool shot. I like that.
That
vertical,
very good,
crisp.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, I would cut you off again there, Cam.
Oh no, you're good.
What were your questions, Kelly?
That was it. That's all I had on my mind right now. Sorry, I got a wilderness to
You
deal
said
with.
it. You said you had questions.
Well,
That was a comment.
I know.
See what I have to deal with here, Cam?
I think it's a good idea. I haven't seen those Fugate videos, so
they
chase those down.
Yeah. What did I do with them?
Well, we're not going to watch.
Anyway,
we're not going to watch the Fugate videos now.
No, I'm not saying that. It's part of his. You go in a store and you'll see the different videos that he's done on the operations, which is really fantastic.
Yeah, and next time we talk to Joe, you can bring that up.
Yeah, I'll bring a question too.
Yeah, bring a question too.
You know what hasn't come up, but maybe once in this episode? John Caffarelli, who was mentioned about 100 times in the last episode.
Yeah, he sent it.
Looking at the live videos here on my page, there actually is a video of live operations from his layout. That was just before those 5 operations.
Yeah,
videos.
and he sent it.
We gotta get him back on.
Yeah, we're gonna get him back on. Tell him to relax. Tell him to. He sent an email in.
Did he?
Yeah,
I told him I'd bother you.
You bother me about being on again? Absolutely. He goes, Lionel. 1, yes, I was exhausted listening to that one. 2, Cam often frowns. And 3, of course, I own Rapido trains.
You're fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
Don't worry, John. We're going to have you on. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I think what we'll do is, once we're finished with Cam, we'll go through the same process with you, John, and then we'll get the two of you back on together for at least one episode, and then we also still have to do the Kelly questions you'll be the first guys to do the Kelly questions as a team.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm thinking for interest's sake, for listeners' sake, they'll have to pick one answer. It'll be like the Family Feud of Modeler's life.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So yeah, don't worry, Cam. He's going to be on again. Does he have a YouTube channel?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well let's promote it.
Union Pacific Cascade Subdivision and HO Scale. I think that's correct. Also, has got a Facebook page. So
yeah.
And if you're on my YouTube page, you should be able to find him at
the bottom of the page.
Yeah. Whoa.
The bottom of the page.
Yep.
Stupid trailer started playing.
He's got a bunch of different.
At the bottom of the page.
Yeah, bottom of the YouTube page.
You got to be on the home tab though.
You got to be on the home tab.
And go down
all the way to the bottom. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, it's not that far down.
He's like a weathering master now.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Well, that's cool. So it's a BNSF UP railroader. Is that the one?
No. It's should be the one on the
Union Pacific Cascade.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So because remember when we talked to him last, when we had you two guys on before, he had already started moving about the country. And he had talked about how the way he was keeping his interest up in the hobby was through weathering.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So we'll get to talk to him. But don't worry, John. We'll have plenty of John Caffarelli on the podcast, and we'll have plenty more of Cam and John together.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And
he's got a lot of cool stuff in the works. I mean, he's still working when he can on the layout. As is, back at his family home. He was actually there just recently, but I think he's got some cool other projects that he's dreaming up as well. So he'll have, honestly, more to talk about than I do.
And that's gonna something I'm gonna. John, be prepared. I'm gonna grill you about the whole. You're working on your layout at your family home, but now you're a married man and you live out west. Like that's just goofy, John. That's just goofy. We're gonna.
He lives like right next to the line that he models too. So,
does he have his own home out there?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, John has got some serious issues. Yeah, he's got issues.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. We never wanted to reveal that on the air, John, but I'm sorry. Well, finally, we've got to just admit the fact you've got issues. But we'll find all that out, John, when we interview you. And, pretty much this whole podcast now is John.
Well, it was you last time. I wasn't bringing him up that much, but now it's my duty to circle back and say, where is that guy? I haven't seen an episode with him, so I've done it.
All right. So, okay. So let's get into a little bit of the construction. All right. Let's say that this is going to be our last interview with you, and then we'll switch to John.
All right.
And so let's briefly, we have a little bit of time left, say 20, 30 minutes. Let's get into some of the construction techniques of the Mariana. How do you say it? Marias Pass. It's hard to say. I find it hard to say.
Don't look at it while you're saying it.
Marias Pass. Don't look at it while you're saying it. Yeah. Okay.
I think you're trying to add syllables. That might be the.
He's thinking about it.
Oh, I'm thinking. No doubt about that. About what is the issue?
He's thinking about banning me from the podcast for the 4th time tonight, probably.
You're about
he's questioning why he ever invited me on in the first place.
You're about as welcoming as a tread from a 18-wheeler on the interstate at rush hour. That's
not very welcoming.
No, exactly. There you go. You're about. I got a million of those.
Yeah, talking to you is like sitting at a railroad crossing. The lights are flashing, the gate's down, but the train ain't coming.
Brad goes deep again with another Lincoln Homer.
Who's writing your material? Wow.
Yeah.
See, it's been nice knowing you guys. Huh?
He was here all night, but still try the liver.
Yeah, try the veal. Try the veal. Yeah, your microphone's moving away from your mouth.
Oh, it's moving. It's doing its thing.
Okay, well, whatever it's doing, I'm sending you some equipment, Kelly.
I know. I appreciate it.
But first, I'm not confident that I'm going to send you one of the cheaper parts first, just to make sure it gets there.
Oh. No, it'll get there.
You don't know that. If I want to send you one of the cheaper pieces first to make sure it gets there, then let me do that. Is that such a problem?
No, it's not a problem.
Cam, do you have these endless family squabbles at your place?
No, somehow no.
Oh,
okay. Tighter than family somehow.
All right. So obviously, then you started to build. What did you call the first layout? Knob Hill or something?
That's nowhere close. It's the Plains Division.
Plains Division, but it was somehow going over a hill of some sort.
Oh, Crawford Hill, yeah.
Crawford Hill, yeah. Okay.
Never mind. I see where you got that from.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Holy moly. Well, at least we got John left to talk to.
After everybody's banned.
Yeah, exactly.
Lionel, what's really interesting. He's got 381 videos, and if you go back to when he first started the first video and work your way up, you could see the progress he made in his skills, and obviously changing the location. But it's amazing.
Well, that's the thing. The quality of your videos, Cam, is really, really, it's top notch. Like, I'm very critical about it's the same. Well, I guess this really doesn't seem like it's possible, but it's the same theory I use for the podcast. I'm very critical about audio. I'm very critical about content. I'm very critical about the product we put out. And your videos are very high end quality. It's fascinating for us as old guys to find a 26-year-old. I mean, you're going to be a superstar in the hobby, buddy. Face it.
Definitely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. What do you use to film? That's not just a phone you use, is it?
Most of them are, yeah. But
really? Wow.
To complicate the matter, there are a few videos from more recently where it is like a camcorder. I forget what it is. It's like whatever the lowest end Sony camcorder that does 60 frames per second at, I think, 1080 resolution. I also use that sometimes. The resolution isn't that crisp and the colors are kind of washed out, but I like occasionally using something with a bit of optical zoom for rail fanning type videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you using the light that's present in the room, or do you add anything?
Yeah, wow. That's something I put a lot of thought into when I was tackling this current layout is the color of the light, but also the amount of it. And I don't think I got it perfect. It's held up. It's worked as I've wanted it to, but I'm using two different types of lights between the upper and lower level. And if you're standing in the room, you can very much see the subtle difference in color and kind of what it does to the scene colors as well as the locomotives. Like it almost looks like a different day, or like the sun's in a different spot depending on whether you're on the upper or lower level. So that's something.
Is the upper level brighter or the color?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say they're similar brightness. It's the upper level lights are on the ceiling, so they're physically further away. So I feel like the light doesn't seem as intense, and it's also slightly warmer, but it also has like a better color rendering index.
Yeah, I'm looking at I can't tell if that's the upper or lower. There's a picture of the oil train going on a long shot, and it's a sort of a I don't know what the darker color to it than the one that's coming out of a tunnel, and it's pretty neat, the colors. Wow. And if it wasn't for the scene, and I'm saying not the scenery, but the fact that it's a layout, just the train itself alone could be placed, it'd be photoshopped onto a track, and you'd say, okay, that's a real train.
Do you use LED lighting in your room?
Yeah, but all sorts of lighting is LED.
Wow.
You have to be careful. I can't ever remember, but I read it, and I think Bruce might have actually posted this article a year or two back. Certain types of LED bulbs really wash the colors out bad when you try to do photography. And I can remember I replaced a bunch of my LED bulbs down here in the train room just because of that. I couldn't figure out what was going on when I took pictures. The colors were washed out bad, and it was because I had the wrong kind of LED bulbs.
Yeah, you got to watch the color rendition index on those and try to get as high as you can, and something around 5,000 K.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about that so we don't leave people in the dark. What exactly is we're talking about? We're talking about you found some LED bulbs don't work, and why don't they work?
There's a thing called color rendition index, and the higher that number is, the more true the color will be. And a lot of the LED bulbs, if you want good ones, you're going to be wanting like 95, 96% in that range, mid-90s. A lot of the cheap LED bulbs are going to be much lower on the CRI, and the colors just aren't going to look right. And then the other thing is the for lack of a better term, the brightness on them. Something around 5,000 K is like a nice brightly lit daylight scene, and if you get a little bit lower, then you get warmer colors, that type of thing.
And you know what CRI stands for, don't you?
Oh no.
Color rendition index.
Exactly. I picked that up after you said, and then you went CRI, and I'm like, CRI, what's that? And then pretty quickly, I was managed to figure that out for myself. So I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited about that. And it's amazing the things that get me interested. So John, Cam, Bob, Steve. Do you see now, Caffarelli, now I got you on the brain, and I'm feeling bad because you're complaining to Cam that you're not on the show, and yada, yada, yada.
No, he's not complaining.
He is complaining. He sends me like 3 emails a day complaining that he's not on the show, and he texts me constantly, and I'm like, just hang on a minute. If you guys would stop building layouts in your parents' houses and find your own places.
Oh, jeez.
Come on. That wasn't that bad. That was just, come on. That was just,
to the guest, that was pretty heavy. I mean, to the other hosts, that was nothing, but man alive.
No, it's fine. I like to poke fun at that element as well. There's something just so perfect. It's the whole package, right? You're a nerdy model railroader, and you also have a layout in your parents' basement. That's just like quintessential doesn't have friends kind of vibe, you know.
It's like where we all started. If you didn't start in your basement, you've missed out on life.
That's where we started. Now we have our own basement, but we still don't have any friends.
That's the dream.
Yeah, that's the dream. All right. I was going to ask you something. Now I can't remember what it was. Damn. All right.
Lights. No,
it was something after that, after we got talking about being in your basement and all that stuff.
What are you using for benchwork? L-girder, a mix of open? What do you have?
Exactly what you said. So mostly open grid for like the longest scenes on the layout. So that would be the yard, and then the scene of Essex, which is above the yard. to sort of reduce, it was really only important for the upper level, but to reduce the depth in terms of like vertical height of that bench work, I used 1x2s there. So that way it wasn't dipping down as far and blocking the view for taller people, blocking the view of the yard, that is. But elsewhere I used...
so Brad would have no problem there then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. If you're not 6'2", you should be able to see the lower level very well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
What are the benchwork heights?
It's almost a continuous grade, so it kind of varies. But so at the yard, for example, that's 38 inches above the ground. The scene above it, I think, is somewhere around like 53 or 54. The very top of the grade is 66 inches. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what layouts did you see in person as a youngster that got you started on this, like understanding the layout heights and all sorts of that? You couldn't have done any of this without some sort of physical interaction with some layouts.
I honestly cannot think of any that I had been to, and even to this day, I've probably visited, not counting John's, I think I've seen 2 other layouts in person. So I kind of wandered into this a little blind, but obviously lots of resources out there. I think Tony Custer's book, he has a book on multi-deck layouts and sort of like viewing angles and things like that. I think I put a lot of time into that.
Would you say that your influence has been the internet more than anything?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think in terms of percentage, the internet probably stands in the lead, but I do really enjoy my magazine resources as well.
Okay,
just from like an enjoyment perspective, I think utility-wise, most of my answers and a lot of my inspiration has come from internet sources, be it YouTube or Facebook or whatever. But there's a lot of inspiration that I've gathered and a lot of enjoyment from flipping through model railroaders, railroad model craftsmen, that sort of deal.
Do you have a preference of the today's magazines? Do you have a go-to magazine or?
Yeah, these days it's Railroad Model Craftsman. Just got a new subscription to that. So
you hear that? You hear that, Otto Von Drack? His go-to magazine is Railroad Model Craftsman. Sit up, Otto, and take notes.
I might be pandering a little bit, but
I don't think
so.
No,
I really do.
I think Otto's done a great job with that magazine. Yeah, really. I think he's really brought it back to life. It's a real throwback to the 80s and the quality of those magazines, and we can't ignore the excellent work that Otto has done over there at RMC. RMC is an acronym for Railroad Model Craftsman.
It's really like getting a book every month.
It really is.
The pages and everything is so high, and the articles are so fantastic. Yeah,
it really is. It's just an enjoyable read. The way I say it is, there's one particular mall we go to in Florida, and the way we go in is through the Barnes and Noble's bookstore, and I almost always get drawn over to, as my wife goes ahead, I get drawn to the magazine section, and I almost invariably every time I go in buy the latest RMC because it's something you don't want to walk out of the store without. And I carry one of them in my backpack and read them on the plane sometimes and occasionally. I think we got to stop there, boys, because we've basically run out of time. We still have to do an introduction because really the whole thing went sideways once we started talking about John Caffarelli. And to make sure we got time. So that's what I think we'll do, Cam. I think we'll stop having individual interviews with you because for John's mental health. And
wow, really overstating it here.
And then we're going to talk to John a couple of times, and then we'll get the two of you together and go from there.
All right. I like that plan. That sounds good.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Be good for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And Kelly can have some more of his dynamic questions ready. And just write when you're doing, all you got to do is when you're going down and you see something that may quit, just write a couple of words saying blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up now. This is on the free channel. So, Kelly, can you give out our email address?
Yes, I can give out our email address. Our email address. Let me just make sure I can. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit.
I know it's going down again. Our email address is modellerslife@gmail.com. That's modeler with one L, like so long, not two L's like Williamson.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Apparently, you're leaving, Brett.
I was just going to say, for the next one, I'll be the guy scratching on the studio door from the outside.
Well,
looking in.
That's basically what Caffarelli's been doing for the last half hour. He's out there, got his nose pressed up against the glass, wanting to get in, and we're
Never should have brought it up.
That's half the fun. That's half the fun of this podcast.
Again, touche. That was well played, Kelly.
I had to get back. I had to get back at you. You know.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Son, if you didn't catch our email address, if you just scroll down on the website a little bit on your phone or on your laptop or your iPad or whatever you have, whatever device you're using, if you just scroll down a little bit to a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, all you got to do is click on that picture, and boom, the email address is filled in automatically for you. And all you got to do is fill in your text and hit send, and away you go. And we'll get your email, and we will read it on the air. We read all the emails on the air. We read them pro or con.
Absolutely.
That's the best part. We like reading email. I think we got to do another email show this coming just in a few days, guys, because they're backing up, and we don't want to get too far behind.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Oh yeah, and. Where else got it? Oh, yeah. So let's go to Cam. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
Every day.
Okay. Well, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, and you scroll across the navigation bar to Other and hit the drop-down menu, you'll see AML Shop. And if you go in there, you're in a wonderland of AML merchandise. Hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, whatever you could possibly need. And in there, you'll find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it. In fact, our very own Brad Williamson, Brad is wearing one right now. Stubby Williamson is wearing his hot dog T-shirt right now.
I thought that was a good one. I think Brad's going, what?
Yeah, did we wake him? He left all of a sudden. He's being attacked by a dog or something. Or he's talking, or he's done something now. That's the best part about doing these new in the new world. I can only imagine what podcasting will be like 50 years from now, and people will find one of these old tapes behind the filing cabinet, start playing, and they'll be going, "What was this?"
I was on mute there for a second. Sorry.
Okay,
but yes, you're right. I do have one of my hot dog T-shirts on tonight.
Okay, all right. And if you like this podcast and you'd like twice as much podcasting a week, if you also click on the Patreon link, every Tuesday you'll get another podcast for just a few cents a day. And that channel where we answer our viewer mail, we talk to the crew, we have some more in-depth conversations with some people, a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more sitting on the back porch after Sunday dinner, just a little bit more down-home kind of interesting. And also, for just a few more cents a day, if you go to the next tier and click on the next tier, and you'll be entered into the When Will I Get My T-Shirt contest. And that is sweeping the nation. It's basically, the nickname is, Hey Dude, Where's My Shirt? And that contest is sweeping the nation. Everybody gets their T-shirts. So every year you get a Patreon T-shirt that's a modeler's life Patreon T-shirt that's only available to our Patreon members. And they're valued. They are valued T-shirts. The trick is, when will you actually get your shirt? Because the person who's in charge of that is, how can we say, useless. Nothing again? Come on, you guys.
Well, we're being kind.
Yeah.
We don't want to be down, trotting all over somebody just because they have limited capabilities or something.
Okay.
You know what else you get with the Patreon?
Well,
don't forget this.
The Wednesday chat.
The Wednesday night chat.
Which is very popular. There's always 30 or 40.
20, 30 guys out there, and you get on early in the afternoon to talk to the boys across the pond, and some guys from down under. It's very popular.
During the entire process, the 10 hours that it's on, it's got to be 30, 40, 50 people get on there.
I think they come and go, and
yeah. And it's guys and girls. We see we see our pal, what's her name from out there, Michelle Kempema.
Michelle's quite down there, yeah.
And that's it. And so that's another advantage of Patreon, and also it helps us with costs of things like, for example, Tom Stock, where we rent our RDC car. Did you? Hey, you got to come back and go to Tom Stock in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's actually in Robesonia, Pennsylvania, and we have a whole weekend. We do Cam. We do Wednesday night. We do dinner. And then on Thursday we do an RDC ride. We rent a Bud car from the Reading and Northern Railroad. It's Reading and Northern or Reading Northern?
Reading and Northern.
Reading and Northern Railroad, and we have exclusivity to this RDC Bud car. We run up the line, and everybody gets a turn to drive it, basically. Guys hanging out the window.
Hanging out the windows, grabbing emergency brakes.
Yeah.
But it's the Reading Northern and Blue Mountain is the railroad.
Okay, Reading Northern and Blue Mountain. And then on Friday this year, every time we have Tom Stock, we do a bus tour for layouts and what have you. And this year we're doing the Jerry Britton Cheeseball Run, which is going to be very, very popular.
Indeed.
That's where Jerry Britton is going to run alongside the bus with a bucket of cheese balls. That's why it's called the Cheeseball Run. Then Saturday we have a big barbecue. And then Saturday night we're going to have the Iron City Unscalers are trying to put their layout up, run it for 15 minutes and take it down.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, actually, we're going to expand that to Friday, all day Friday and Saturday. Yeah, you guys are going to have to hurry up if you're going to do anything on the Friday, because I guess we'll see you put it up Friday evening, and then take it, and then we'll have all Friday evening and all day Saturday to play with it.
Yeah, I think that was what we talked about last time we were with Tom. Yes,
you've been pretty quiet for this whole part, Cam. Are you a little overwhelmed, or?
No, I am enjoying the information.
Okay.
And also looking at YouTube.
Are we bored?
We bored him enough. He's watching YouTube.
Are we boring you?
No, I'm again multitasking like last time.
Yeah, what are you watching?
Nothing at the moment. Just looking for, what I'll put on next. A lot of NHL highlights.
Wait a minute.
What?
So we've given you all this praise and all this credit and all this talking about what a wonderful 26-year-old guy you are, and you have a fabulous layout. And now, because we're not talking about you for 5 minutes, you've gone off to select video that you're going to put up for your next YouTube.
This is the pursuit of excellence. You have to play the part, and it's about constantly looking for my next source of inspiration. So,
is it inspiration? You said NHL. I'm going like, you have another channel?
No, he's watching NHL highlights, he just said.
Yeah, but I'm saying, does he have another...
This is the first time we've ever had a guest explicitly tell us we're so boring, he's doing other stuff.
Those are not my words.
That's pretty much what I heard. What did you hear, Bruce?
That's what I heard. That's you guys are boring the living bleep out of me. I'll be watching YouTube videos.
Yeah, and NHL highlights. He did spit it.
I haven't started watching them yet.
Yeah, but you were
get ready.
You were thinking about it. That's pretty much is there.
I got to be organized.
And would you like to know again why I didn't notify you when your podcast came out?
Right.
Because you don't seem to care enough while you're on it. Boy, John, I can hardly wait to interview you, John, because you got to be better than this. I hope you can at least stay involved with us for the whole time.
Yeah, John's at least expressed interest.
Yeah, John has at least expressed interest. You've expressed. So, all right, if we're talking NHL, can you
don't give him the score of the Leafs game?
I'm not gonna. Don't talk to give me the score of the Leafs game. I still got to watch it. But if we're talking NHL, if we're talking NHL, can anybody hear me? I can feel my lips moving.
No.
Yeah.
No.
If we're talking,
did you say something, Lionel?
Jeez.
Is Lionel's having microphone problems again?
This is so much fun.
Oh, there he is.
If we're talking NHL, can you at least explain to us? Like you feel that hit that Alf Samuelsson put on you in the 91 playoffs. You at least feel like you should have retaliated at the time, right?
Yeah, I probably should have.
Yeah. Okay. That went over like
I was at that game.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Who were you rooting for?
No, I was watching it on TV. I'm just teasing. I was rooting for the Penguins.
Well, neither one of those teams were playing, were they?
Yeah, it was the Penguins and the Bruins when Ulf Samuelsson hit Cam Nealy.
Oh, was Ulf Samuelsson with Penguins then?
Yeah, they got him in the Ron Francis trade. When they traded
right. One of the most underrated players in the history of the NHL, Ron Francis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally agree. One of my all-time favorite Penguins.
And also Hartford Whaler.
Yes.
So hang on for just another minute here, Cam. Okay, so now we've covered everything, have we not, Bruce?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so at the appropriate moment, Cam, I need you to say "Happy Rails" to you. Now, the key to this is there's no singing, there's no dancing, there's no interpretation. Just with enthusiasm, say "Happy Rails" to you.
Is how you just said it. Does that qualify as enthusiasm?
Doesn't sound like it to me.
Okay, I'll try a little bit more.
Yeah.
Probably what you're going to
You know what? If you could just put your computer down for a minute and stop looking at other videos and highlights.
I'm listening.
Oh, God.
Well, Cam, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say...
Happy Rails to you.
By 4 car crushing action Saturday at the Spectrum. Burning Motor Coaches battle it out in the mud bog with special guest stars Heather Locklear and Knight Rider Car Kit.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
Wait, was that what I was supposed to say?
Yep.
Yeah, only with enthusiasm.
It's like you're watching a hockey game. Come on.
Yeah. Hey, Kelly, can you do it for him? Give him an example.
I thought I did it okay last time, but
Happy Rails to you.
But wait till somebody else.
On a 7-second delay.
Yeah.
Right.
But wait till somebody else is talking.
Pausing after you make a statement. So that's
the issue that time is I was questioning what 4 words I was saying before I said it. So I know now.
Okay. Well, too late. The show's over.